It's another liar's turn to try their hand at AD's dark, twisted game, so let's break it down on this episode of What Happened. Welcome back, you lovely people, to another episode of my recap show, What Happened, Pretty Little Liars edition. This time we're talking about episode 12 of season 7, called These Boots Are Made for Stalking, which I guess is referring to the red boots we see Aria wearing throughout the episode, but more on that later. This episode opens right where we left off, with the girls still standing around the game. Hannah has the knife in her hand. Spencer's apologizing again for playing the game, but Hannah still in a pissy mood, spitting off sassy one-liners left and right, and Addison seems to think that maybe Jenna's behind this all, while Aria thinks it's maybe Sydney, and basically everyone's just like, who's doing this? And while all the girls are talking about maybe playing the game, Emily's like, we shouldn't touch this game, we shouldn't play it, we should just go to the cops because all the stuff that we've done, not nearly as bad as what AD has done. She says she's done with kind of all of this and walks out, while all the other girls say that they should really be all in this together. Cue High School Musical, because anytime I hear that phrase, I just want to sing we're all in this together. That's why I'm not a singer, and I'm sorry for that. So now let's talk about Hannah. When we last left Hannah, she was basically this close to dressing socialite Catherine Daly. All she has to do is get her the perfect outfit, so that's the mission Mona has right now. So Mona comes back and shows Hannah the dress that Catherine is interested in, and Hannah goes into panic mode, immediately saying this is not an option, and she's freaking out on Mona, and we actually don't know why, but this dress is off the table. So what's the big deal about this dress? It turns out that maybe Hannah didn't exactly design this dress, or she doesn't feel like she deserves full credit for designing it, because she designed it back when she worked for Claudia. When she presented the original dress to Claudia gave her a ton of suggestions and saying, change this, change that, change this. Hannah ended up making 19 of those changes, including like the belt and whatever. So she feels like Claudia basically designed this dress. Now Caleb, being the support boyfriend that he is, reassures her that she is super talented and she should just take this dress and run with it. Because basically Claudia was so awful to her, and it's like the least Claudia could do. Alright Hannah, I'm gonna have to agree with Caleb on this. Like, it's, you know, art. People take things from each other. That's what happens. You didn't flat out copy her. She just made suggestions that you used to help enhance what you made. So I think you're off the hook here. Well, maybe. In this episode, Jenna is finally back in town, and she fits into a few of the girls' storylines, including Hannah. So for Hannah, she shows up at the Radley with her minions wearing a white dress that's basically the exact thing that Hannah has designed, but of course hers is in black. Now Mona's like, hold up now, how did she get that dress? Obviously someone had to duplicate the dress that Hannah has. So Mona goes and confronts Jenna, who's freaked out a little bit and is like, I don't know, someone gave me this dress as a gift, and then she's like, I can't keep talking to you, I gotta go catch my Uber. So at this point Hannah's so frustrated, and she ends up kind of mentioning to Mona that there's this kind of game that's being played, and Mona's like, what game? And then Hannah's like, oh crap, I can't tell you about this. So she basically is like, I can't do this right now, I gotta leave. Now, at this point, I'm also still not sure whether we should be trusting Mona or not. She's just still too damn nosy for my liking, but I really need to know, how did Jenna get a dress exactly the same as Hannah's? Hannah ends up running off to follow Jenna with Caleb, and Jenna happens to get dropped off at the same place where the cobbler is fixing Hannah's shoes. Caleb confronts Jenna, who says that she's there just to rehearse with her friends in the studio that's above where the cobbler is, but Caleb's not really buying it, and he just doesn't believe anything that's coming out of her mouth, and I actually kind of don't either. Meanwhile, Hannah goes into the cobbler shop where, of course, it's dark, no one's around, and I guess Hannah hasn't learned anything from her time in Rosebud, because, you know, usually when that happens, you should just probably run and leave because something bad's gonna happen. But instead of booking it out of there, she just goes and starts snooping around and ends up locked in this cage where the lights go off, all the equipment starts turning on, a drill bit comes through the wall. But she starts freaking out, and then she gets these flashbacks of what happened when she was in that barn thing where she was getting electrocuted. She ends up like crumpling through the floor, and then she gets a text from AD that says, wait your turn, bitch, it'll come and you'll be ready. It looks like AD just wants to handle each of these girls one at a time. So next up, let's go to Spencer, who's really intent on finding Mary Drake. She's still being cold to her mom, or in this case, I guess we should call her Mrs. Hastings, and Mr. Hastings is still avoiding coming home. Spencer confronts Mrs. Hastings again and demands to know, did Melissa know everything? Who knew what? And Mrs. Hastings says Melissa was not aware of everything. So basically everyone's been lied to some point, and Spencer actually ends up bringing up, remember that time I checked into Radley? Like, how did you feel about that, knowing that I was checking into the same place where I was born? And she's just, I feel like, trying to basically make Mrs. Hastings feel really bad about everything. Which I guess she has a right to, because if I had found that crap out when I was like, 24, 25, whatever she's supposed to be at this point in time, and I'd been lied to my entire life, it'd take me a little while to get over it too. Spencer ends up calling Detective Fury and ends up showing him the letter that she got from the game and is basically asking for help finding Mary Drake. When she's in Detective Fury's office later, he said that he's found a few other Mary Drakes, but they're too old to match her mom. But someone matching Mary's description did recently check into a hotel, but didn't use that name. Then Detective Fury asks Spencer, where'd you get this letter? And then all of a sudden there's this tip-tap from Jenna's cane that saves the day and lets Spencer off the hook from answering that question. Instead, she ends up having to listen to Jenna tell Detective Fury that Noel was the mastermind and he killed Sarah and he was going to kill Jenna too, and it was all about money because he was cut off, and that Charlotte had promised Jenna money for another eye surgery and all of this, and Jenna's just basically playing the victim, blaming everything on Noel, and Spencer's not buying it for 1 second. Because honestly, can you believe a word out of anybody's mouth in this town? When Jenna leaves, Spencer tries to tell Detective Fury that Jenna's a liar, but he says he can't do anything since the bullet in Jenna's gun didn't match the bullet that was in Spencer, so there's nothing to charge Jenna with, so Jenna's running free. Spencer later meets up with Aria to tell her she's not quite sure what she's going to say to Mary if she does find her, but how she possibly wants to get to know her as someone to forgive. And then we also learn that Spencer's parents, the Hastings, are going to sell their house, and Spencer's not too happy about this, and it just seems like things are going wrong for this family left and right. Next up is Aria, who is of course still obsessing over Ezra and Nicole. We see Aria leaving Ezra's apartment in her little red boots when a reporter comes looking for Ezra to do a human interest piece on the local author reunited with his long-lost fiance. And Aria tells the guy, wait, hold up, no, Nicole is not his fiance, she is, and then things just get real awkward. Aria then goes to confide in Holden, who's supposed to be helping her come up with the menu for her and Ezra's wedding. Holden's super busy, so he kind of needs help in the kitchen. Aria offers to help. Like I said, Aria's still hung up on, this whole Ezra-Nicole situation. She's starting to think maybe Ezra had at one point proposed to Nicole, but why wouldn't he have told her, and why is he putting off telling Nicole about the two of them? And it's just kind of like poor Holden's having to sit here and listen to this. He's such a good guy, at least at this point. As Aria and Holden have finished doing all the food preparations and everything, Aria's cleaning up when she gets a notification on her phone, and she sees an article about Ezra being reunited with Nicole, and Holden actually also sees it on her phone. We then see Aria head to the place where Nicole is staying, but it's after visiting hours, so she tries to sweet talk this nurse who's outside, and the nurse is about to let her in when you hear someone yell, "Aria, stop!" And it happens to be Holden to the rescue, and he's like, don't do this, it's gonna be a mistake. So the two end up going off to eat pizza, and it seems like he got to Aria in time. She had a change of heart, change of mind, didn't go to see Nicole. But then she's still questioning everything, and she asks Holden if maybe she should give the ring back, and Holden's like, no, don't do that. And then we see her rest her head on Holden's shoulder. So it seems to me like maybe Holden still has some kind of feelings for Aria, right? Or maybe he's just a good guy and trying to be a good friend. I'm not really sure, but I'm super annoyed at Aria right now, and I just don't need a Holden Aria like side romance to get everything off track on PLL. Now let's move on to the real drama for this episode. It involves Emily and this little bitch named Addison. Emily and Paige are discussing the whole swim lineup in the locker room when Paige ends up apologizing for all the stuff she said about Allison, and things get kind of a little bit more personal in their conversation. The camera pans, and of course someone is listening, because that's just what happens here in Rosewood. So who is it? Well, it's this new character whose neck I just really want to wring throughout this entire episode, but she's like a sophomore in high school in the show, so it's kind of wrong to say those things maybe, but she's literally the worst. This character is named Addison, who is a girl on the swim team. She overhears everything that Emily and Paige are saying, so when Emily walks by and she's surprised to see Addison standing there, Emily asks, why did you miss practice yesterday? And Addison has this whole bullshit excuse about how she had a headache and whatever, and gives basically just a ton of attitude, enough that it's quite clear to even the blindest person like Jenna that this girl is trouble. Now, of course, Addison also happens to be in Allison's class, and when the class ends, Addison's still at her seat, attached at the hip to her phone, when Emily walks in telling her, you know, hey, you said you were called out sick yesterday, but there's no record of you leaving, going home sick, all this stuff. And Addison just makes up more bullshit excuses, and Emily tells her, you know what? You're lying to me, you're out of the lineup for the meet coming up. And Addison goes, are you sure you want to do that? Okay, like, are kids really this mean these days? I mean, I guess they are, right? Bullying happens all the time, as sad as that is. I mean, I know that they can be, but it's been a while since I've been in school, but I know that the school I went to, I just never saw this. Or maybe I was just oblivious to it, but it just baffles me that someone can be that cruel for really no reason at all sometimes. Addison just needs to chill the F out. Anyway, Addison ends up leaving the classroom and then overhears Emily and Allison talking about a bunch of stuff, and she sneakily snaps some photos of the two of them hugging and getting close. Addison then goes to cry wolf to Paige and says that she was benched for skipping class and accuses Emily of being inappropriate with her and other students, touching, and all these kinds of ridiculous things. Addison then shows Paige the pictures that she took on her phone, but Paige has kind of an inkling, and by inkling I mean she knows that this is all bullshit and that Addison is super sneaky. But Addison ends up showing her the pictures and then says, you know, should I take this to the principal? And Paige is like, no, I'll handle this, just forward me the pictures. Paige thankfully finally does something right and doesn't go to the principal, but instead tells Emily what's going on. Emily wants to go to the principal, but Paige says, you know, maybe that's not a good idea because it's your word against Addison's, and Addison is dangerous. She can twist her story like any way that she wants. And Paige once again starts to say some mean stuff about Allison bringing her drama to school. But all in all, Paige ends up telling Emily that she's going to handle things and she won't let Addison get away with it, but Emily needs to take the night off from practice for everyone to cool down. Later, when Emily is at the brew, she hears the clickety-click-click of Jenna's evil cane, and then she hears Jenna text someone. Emily hears another phone go off in the corner, and she peeks around and sees that it's Addison who picks up her phone. Okay, so there's no real proof that these two are connected, it's just a matter of timing. But could they be connected at some point? Is that too easy? Or is it just that magical coincidence that we know how Emily's brain is working at the moment, being paranoid about Jenna and Addison, just happens to work hand in hand? Well, after seeing this, Emily has now had it up to like here with everything, and has backtracked on her word about this game, and she is ready to play this game, so she goes to Allison's to ask for Spencer's spare key. Allison demands to go with her, and when they open the game, Emily's like, hey, was that piece always there? Seems like her little game piece is now moved over to the school, and when they pick up the phone in the middle of the game, it says, press #benchme. So they press it, and then they see security footage start to play from the alley behind the brew that shows Addison and her boyfriend smoking weed with a timestamp of when she should have been in practice. Okay, Rosewood, you and all your damn security cameras. Like, does AD control every security camera in the whole town? It's ridiculous. Emily has this new footage in her back pocket, so she goes to practice where she ends up confronting Addison in the locker room, telling her to retract her accusations or she's gonna have to share what Addison's really been doing behind the brew. And of course, Addison is on her toes and ready to fire back, and immediately turns it around and says, oh, what, are you stalking me and following me now too? This sets Emily off, and she starts to go off on Addison when Paige walks in and stops her. And then when Addison starts to kind of make comebacks again, Paige brings up an email that they found that Addison had sent in the computer lab about getting Emily fired, and how Paige ended up sending a copy to the principal and Addison's parents, and they're all waiting for her. Part of me is like, Paige, did you make up this email, or is this true? Either way, it seems to kind of alleviate the situation a little bit, but it's not going to fix everything, and I feel like this is just going to piss Addison off even more, especially if we see her moving forward, so Emily better watch her back. And before Emily leaves the school, she ends up looking in her little mailbox and she finds an envelope with a puzzle piece just like the one Spencer got last episode when she finished her game. When they get back to Spencer's, she ends up putting the piece on the home board next to Spencer's piece, and Spencer's like, this must be a map for something. So what does the game want them to find? Or maybe it's someone they want them to find. Also, there's no real AD ending scene in this episode. We just see someone watching the girls through the window, which is pretty typical. Alright, so that's basically what happened in this episode. All I know is that this Addison girl better not be sticking around. Like, it's hard enough for me to have Paige back on the show because I'm not really a huge fan of her, but I don't need another annoying character on the show, especially with Sydney coming back too. Also, this board game. This board game's kind of actually fun, this dark, demonic, Jumanji-ish type thing. It's really bringing out everyone's dark sides, and I'm curious to see what it has in store for the other girls. Also, I just need to know why Holden is sticking around and playing such a big part in Aria's storyline. Like, I just need to resolve that whole Aria, Ezra, Nicole thing so that we can just get to this Ezreal wedding we all want. Now, in the next episode, it looks like it's Hannah's turn to maybe step up to the game board. Caleb learns about the game, and Sydney is back in town, but worst of all, there's the most annoying sound in the world in this episode, at least according to Dumb and Dumber, a baby's cry.
So annoying.
What happens if you refuse to play? You flip the board over and you storm out.
Ow, let go of me. I have to know what the stakes are.
And you could go to jail.
Caleb, stay back. I said stay back.
Alright, PLL fans, I need to know what clues did you pick up on in this episode? Are we any closer to learning who AD is? I feel like I have to watch every episode like 3 times before I pick up on any clues because I'm just that slow, and that's why I need your help because you guys are way quicker than I am. You're quick to point out every type of little thing. I know that there's a theory that came out this week about how Paige could be AD because her hair matches this bit of hair that we saw at the very end of the AD scene in the last episode with the person handing Jenna the book, and also AD, like Paige's job, athletic director. But like, honestly, I'm gonna be so pissed if it ends up being Paige. The character's just, I know it's mean, but the character's just so annoying to me, and I feel like right now they're making her and Jenna too obvious to be choices, right? Anyway, leave me all your AD theories below, and let's get this discussion going, because right now, we're 2 episodes in, and I feel like we're not really getting any answers that we were promised. And so Marlene, in the next however many episodes are left, there better be some answers coming soon, and like clear answers. Not this roundabout crap, I need clear answers. After you leave me all your theories, then you can just click over here for the latest news on Descendants 2, Shadowhunters, and Riverdale. And as always, subscribe if you haven't yet. Come back, talk to me about Pretty Little Liars. I need answers. And then high fives for all of you wonderful subscribers who are already out there. And just like last time, and every time, I'm Lisa. Thanks for hanging out with me.